Unless
Not clear.
Caitlin is not on, do you want me to share it or
To,
screen share?
no, if she gets on, you can start sharing it, but until then, we're fine.
Is anybody watching on like, are we live on YouTube at all, or the ones that we don't know? So should we screen share?
Yeah, I guess you don't mind.
Yeah, somebody could be watching Facebook.
Okay, I'd like to kick off our second budget, work session, for 2024. We're gonna be listening to, four of our departments that share their budgets, or their planned budgets, for the 2025 budget. Everyone's got about a half an hour, I think just given the difference of budgets we're looking at today, probably go a little quicker, but, yeah, so if you'd like to kick us right off.
Thank you, John. Thank you all. I've handed you out the main report. And I've also done the screenshots that I like to use because I think they're bigger, you can follow along a little easier and it's not as congested. So the very first thing I'm going to start with is penalties and interest, that I collect. I'm going to put down 70,000. Between town and county this year and last year's school, I did generate 94,812.85. But I'm a little weary this year because just make it quick, there's some current legislation or there's a bill that's been passed by both houses that has not yet gone to the governor for her to sign, and it will change the penalties that we charge extremely. The AOT has sent the letter to the governor. My New York State Tax Receivers Association has sent one. It is going to be an accounting nightmare. It's going to be tied to the prime rate. So currently, like in February, you get charged a 1% penalty for anything that's owing. Because it'll be tied to the prime rate, right now, Department of Taxation and Finance doesn't even know what the prime rate is. They're going with 8.5%. And if that is true, that would last 5 years. And it would mean instead of us collecting a 1% penalty, it would be a 0.67, only on residential. So that's one equation. So anybody that has residential property could pay a lower penalty. Farmland, commercial, vacant lands would all retain the 1%. We could have a problem with having to create two tax bills because it's going to be very confusing to the public. We're hoping, because letters have gone to her, that she will not sign it and that we'll just stay as it is. What it is, it's to provide relief to delinquent taxpayers. We offer partial payments. And the fear is that municipalities will suffer because if you've got a credit card bill where it's 28%, you may take your tax money and pay off that and not worry about paying the tax bill. So financially, it could be a fiscal problem for a lot of municipalities. So that's why I went with 70,000, because you need to know now. And she hasn't even received the bill yet to sign. So she may not sign it until December, and if that's the case, then it'll be chaos, quite frankly. So I'd rather go under than way over.
But in terms of, like, if she waits to sign it, the bill's already printed with the wrong information.
And so, yeah, that's what you meant by having to generate two tax bills?
Well, no, because one of the solutions might be that Patrick would have to keep really good, close tabs on what's a residence. And then we would have to create a tax bill just for residents with a certain penalty schedule, and everybody else would have to have the other. I don't think it was, I understand the logic of it, but it wasn't thought through going down locally, who has
I
to.
mean, they didn't ask people in towns in your position.
No.
And
So-
the rate would be set for 5 years, did you say?
That would be set for 5 years, and then they'd revisit it again in another 5 years, whatever the prime rate was 5 years down the road.
That sounds very.
Right, if you're an accountant, I'm sure you probably wouldn't exactly like this bill as a tax receiver, I'm not exactly happy about it either. But, so that's why I'm going a little bit with the 70. Obviously, if we generate close to 95,000 again, that's great for you, for us. But, I would rather caution on a lower amount. It's okay. Then we get into the next page, which is my, budget, all the, accounts that I have. And I'll go down through, them. The first one would be my, personnel, which is the .100, the 5.1330.100. I had this all done when John had sent out a reference guide, doing the calculation that kind of looked like John's formula was gonna be like about a 3.3%, just.
Yeah.
Sharon, I put in 5, Reba, I put in 4, and myself, I really jumped myself up this year. I looked and I saw what some department heads were getting paid for this year, and I'm the lowest department head. And I have to collect $120 million. I'm basically a CFO, and I'm making $57,000 a year. So I'm just asking you to readdress what my salary was. So what I put down is actually 11. So, the amount of work, the thousands of people that we interact with on a yearly basis, just in one tax cycle, it's thousands and thousands of people. Whether it be on the phone or in person. So there's really not a free moment, obviously, when taxes are going on. And Sharon does both. You'll see that there's a Sharon Lake trash and brush line, that's left 0. I defer to Ann on that. But, I did the same thing, I put in the same 26,250 for her. Any questions on personnel? Okay, my next is my, equipment. The only thing I'm putting in for would be 2 printer stands. I talked to William about it. I kind of want to move, I have a printer on the counter and I have one off to the side. I'd like to get a printer stand that will hold both of them, put them in the middle so that whoever's working on the right side and whoever's working on the left side would have access to both. And then I've also put in for one to put back by Sharon. Right now, we've just got her printer on, just a little stand. That way she can put her trash and brush information in that stand so she doesn't have her books on the floor. Just to kind of tighten it up. And then there's where, if you've been in my office, where that one printer stand is, Reba's desk is here, and then those folks like Carrie that have to get into the vault, it's just a little small squeeze area. This will bring it over here and that'll open up that hallway as well, a little bit. And then just an office chair is all that I have in there. My contract, my monthly fee for Adobe's in there, kind of guesstimated to be 21, right now it's $19.99. I don't know what their prices will be, I just put in maybe $2 more. My Pitney Bowes maintenance is $210. My cash counter maintenance is $250. I pulled Toshiba toner out because I was told that, I guess it's gonna go under general, so that really took a lot out of my contract line. Next is my office supply. I did not give you out the printout of this, you'll have to work off of that, because you can't do a screenshot of just this, you have to go page by page by page. So it's pretty much the same, there's not a lot of change in my office line as it was last year. Just stuff to do normal business with, you know, pens, paper, calculator ribbons, adding machine tapes, you know, just the normal maintenance stuff. Envelopes, that's the largest, there's envelopes, yes. About, how many, about 25 or 30,000 a year. So then you'll switch over to, my taxes and seminars, my .402. Same thing, my monthly training. I have put in a little bit for Sharon to maybe to attend some of my local ones. My training seminar in June will be about the same as it was last year, $700, the registration fees, the miscellaneous NYSATRIC fees that I have, and tolls and parking. about the same as it was last year. My yearly dues, that's increased just a little bit because I have Sharon, also down now for my NICEADRIP yearly dues as well, so that went up a little bit. And then my last two, my IT, same as last year, that's for my catslookup.net along with my software. That's the same 1,500 for school and for property tax and the maintenance of that. And then my legal notices, probably will be about the same as they were last year.
I saw your notice in the paper.
Very good. Eagle Bulletin is very good to me. Very good. Luba is wonderful. Any questions?
So I have a question regarding the status of particularly your position, because you're elected,
Mhm.
so you don't have like regular hours. But my understanding was that your position was really not a full-time job.
It is when you look at, if
I
you
mean, it's
have,
full-time this time of year, for sure, but.
yes, but what I do in the summers is I use any of the vacation time I have and I work like a half a day
Mhm.
and I take my Fridays off. So I just use vacation time that anybody else would use and I use it those months that I'm here at a split schedule. I more than make up for that this time of year. I'm putting in close to 50 hours, if not more a week. During tax time.
And there's two.
And then some, and weekends sometimes.
Mhm.
And I don't work from home.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I do not have your electronic copy.
I will send you an electronic copy.
Do you want me to pass your copy down?
Sure. Also, I got, it's not a good slide.
Shouldn't you just go there?
Yes, you got it here. Why don't you take that, I'll start over here.
Very much.
And wait till you read it. It gets even more impressive. I had running for the longest of times, other than the personnel line, I think it was 8 years in a row with no changes. And then last year or the year before, I had to make some changes because of inflation. But with the exception of the personnel line, I'm back to almost like no changes at all. I think last year's budget works well. It just make it work. The only change was in the contractual of my $53. And again, this is not non-personnel. And that was dealing with some postage issues related to duplex, but I think we're good there.
Related to what?
There's a law in the books that we have to send a second notice out to seniors saying, oh, by the way, the deadline for filing for your seniors exemption is coming up. So we send out a postcard instead of full-blown mailing. So just to account for the fact that the Postal Service just bumped it up on the rates, that's all that $53 is to cover the difference.
So who goes to the different conferences? Does everybody go to some?
Everyone goes. Which then brings me to the missing sheet that I'm looking for to talk about the salaries. We had budgeted for this year a stipend for Kristen Howe, because she was, at the time, she was one course short of being certified as an assessor. And so I apologize, I don't have it with me. We were running around talking about some other things beforehand. But in a nutshell, it comes down to Kristen went out on maternity leave. That slowed the process down, but she's now scheduled for the course in November. And she will then officially be certified as a state certified candidate for assessor. Check out the salaries increases.
Well, you're early if you know where they are, okay?
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So Chris isn't ready. Yeah. So we'll keep.
So salary-wise, I hate putting myself in for a pay raise, honestly, I do. But I did put it in, and I'm hoping Rob Cushing's not paying attention, because I noticed I was always like $4,000 ahead of Rob in terms of salaries. And last year, all of a sudden, Rob went and leapfrogged me, and I was like, oh, well, okay, we'll deal with that. I will say that we've been working very hard in terms of getting the assessments in line. And in fact, I'm willing to go, I'm ready to go and share some information on that. Last year, we had a total town taxable value of I'm just going to give you round numbers on the taxable value. It's $3.565 billion on the taxable for the town. This year, we're looking at just a hair north of $4 billion. So that's $435,891,378.16. We round down on that, so it's 378. That puts the taxable value up total for the town by 12.22%. So you get some leeway here to go and work with the budget, which then brings me back to the salaries. As I said, we worked very hard about it. I hate putting myself in for salaries. I'd like to leave it up to the board, and so you can decide what you want to do there. But the three increases, well, they all get an increase. My salary currently is $95,000, and just to go a step ahead of Rob, because well, I'll leave that alone. I've got myself in for $100,300. Jumping to Kristen. Kristen currently has a base salary of $44,300, and as I said, she is about due to get certified here. So what I'd like to do is take her from the 44,000 up to 48,300, which would be a 9% increase for Kristen. And because now Kristen is gaining on Chris, I'd like to go and give Chris a 4.7% increase and take her from 59.3 up to 62.1. And then as far as Pilar and Ryan are concerned, I took John's email, took the $900 plus the 1.5%, tacked that on, so that would bring both Ryan and Pilar from 40,000, they're both right there, up to 41,500.
Thank you.
So I have a new person question. So is Chris already a certified assessor? Is that the difference between Chris and Christians?
In large part, yes. And in fact, I stole Chris from Cicero when I came down here back in 2005.
Okay.
I hired her on back in 97, and she's just absolutely aces. I mean, she's got everything covered. Every single aspect, the real property tax laws, assessment administration, exemption administration, the appraisal process, she's got it down pat. She's also one of the rare assessors in New York State that have the IAO designation. So I think you and I talked about that in my office. It's an extremely rare honor, and she's definitely earned it. So yeah, that's where we are with that.
Pat, did you figure a percentage out on your increase?
Again, just making it for lost time. Works 5.6%.
So the raise for Kristen, was that intended to include the stipend, or the stipend is still in addition to?
The stipend would kick in this year. As I said, she's scheduled for the course in November. The lowest grade she's gotten on any course, I believe, was a 94.
Yeah.
So I'm cautiously optimistic that she's going to ace the next test coming up, and the stipend would be for this year. And then budget-wise, we're accounting for the whole year with this budget right here.
Okay, because you still have the stipend under the contractual line?
For this year. Again, she was
Oh,
doing,
okay.
we were gonna give her the stipend as soon as she passed the assessment administration course. But as I said, she went out on maternity leave, and so that kind of got pushed
Yeah.
back.
So that probably means then either it's gonna come out of the budget this year. And then we'll be, because we have $1,800 in this year's budget,
But
right?
if
Right.
she takes the test in November, she can get it this year.
Okay.
Will the results be available that way? Will the results be available that way?
Yeah,
And sometimes it takes months for some reason, even though it's a scam call.
Oh, me.
Pat, I couldn't write as fast as you read those numbers. The last year's total county tax bill, he said was around 3.65 billion. 3.5.
Oh, okay, 600.
Said 5 first, and he hit 6, and then I went over the top of it. So we did hear the same. We all heard. Yeah.
so in 2023, it was, I'll give you the full count here. It was 3 billion, and this is just taxable, this is not the assessed value. But this is obviously what you're gonna be building the rate off of. 2023 was 3,565,623,354.
And then you had this year's number?
This year, it's 4 billion, 1 million, so 4001, 514,732. And that's a 12.22% increase. Merry Christmas.
It's not, because the phone calls and meetings we take in the public don't make it anything like Christmas.
Well, actually,
Maybe Halloween.
you know, if you want to jump into those numbers, in 2023, we had 523 grievances. That represented 3.6% of the total assessment roll. This year, it went down to 387 grievances. That represented 2.7% of the assessment roll. And so we're down 136 grievances this year.
And what do you attribute that to? Because I'll tell you what my feedback is that people think it's hopeless, so they won't grieve anymore.
It's hopeless going up against Pat Duffy. You're absolutely right. No, I think the reality is the marketplace is setting it. I think anytime you see huge increases in the marketplace, people are slow to go and recognize those increases, even though you've got a lot of publicity out there. The internet, news TV, newspapers, all of that's indicating what the marketplace is doing. And a lot of times people say, well, yeah, that's everyone else, it's not me. until the change of assessment notice comes, and then it's me. Then they also start taking a look at their neighbors and realizing that, okay, yeah, they went up roughly the same as I did. The taxes aren't necessarily, just because you got an increase in the assessment doesn't equate to an increase in the tax bill. If all of the assessments went up 50%, of course, the rates are gonna come down 50% as well, just to keep things in balance. So I think once people got used to the sticker shock from a couple of years ago, they're starting to see this. I think they realize that, yeah, okay, there's something to it. The good news is, the bad news is, of course, it's a higher tax bill, which is not. The good news is, I look at the equity in my house now. So it's double edged.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Did you want to talk about those other two issues, or save that?
We'll catch up.
Okay.
Who do we have next?
Tom, and I've already texted him to tell him to be ready.
Here we are.
He was just finishing
Half
up.
an hour ahead.
Well, when you don't change the budget, it's easy.
Yeah. Even today, it's 2% of the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what are you thinking? Happy with the new furniture?
Very much, yeah. Although it does feel like I'm still at work. I mean, I am at work.
It doesn't have that old,
The old mahogany
School.
smell.
bank, was it hand me down thing?
Yeah.
It's very nice stuff.
No, this is great.
Yeah.
I think the people will definitely appreciate that.
Stackable.
Oh, yeah.
Absorbable.
Your foot's not numb.
And probably the materials are really absorptive of noise too.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. I've already noticed that, yeah, for sure.
I'll let you know, whatever last year, while we're top of the legs. Table
Yeah,
legs.
Oh,
the table legs, we have to rearrange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we, the board certainly like, these two departments, the great consideration is all towards the personnel domain. Every other cost is pretty fixed, there's nothing really moving, so as a board, we have to consider the value of the personnel domain.
Back to the table, how come those tables are?
Back to the tables. Hang on, the
The,
lockers.
they have them out there.
Oh,
Yeah, on this side.
I just noticed that those two don't have them.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, those same tables don't have the lock. the
Nice of
lockers.
you to join us, Tom.
Ready? Be ever ready.
Tom, would you like me to pass them out? You got
You give us a second. Okay.
We can do like the old school teachers one.
There's that, and then
Do we keep both of them?
you
Or does anybody has it?
just pick one.
Okay, well, you can't be handed it. Yours.
Well, did William get one?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you did? Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
I like this setup.
Did you keep them?
Right out my way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, hey.
There's just a few.
Let's carry it on.
All right.
So I'll get my phone.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
So first page here, I'm starting off with the revenue. One of the items that, for myself, licenses and permits. Last year, we had upped it from what had been previously done for years was the 65,000 up to 111. When I did my presentation, my annual report, I showed that $65,000 to $70,000 was our annual permit fee based on our projects that did not include large projects that we could not account for coming through. I've spoken with Maria. One of the things that we would do is I think we all realize we have some big projects coming through, but I cannot account for them being in 2025 or 2026. I'm starting. So what I did was our base project number, which does include, like, say, a commercial shopping center does a renovation, something in the core plaza or something of that nature, that does factor in some of those projects. But that number has been pretty standard for us for the past 5 years. So I brought that back down. We could always do a budget adjustment if we have a large project come through, a solar array or one of the 3 big proposed developments. And then there'd be additional conversation about that revenue coming in.
But you don't think you can count on them actually coming forward in 2025?
I mean, they are very hopeful. They want to be.
Mhm.
I just don't know what, if I do it and it doesn't, it's a very large dollar figure that's not factored in.
Okay, so you didn't, I guess I should wait, but, so I would say it would be both sides, so if they come through, then you also hire extra, and if they don't come through, you don't hire extra?
Well, here's what, so let me do this. If we flip on to the next page. One of the things, so the first thing is P&D services. Last year, we had budgeted $209,000. This year, I'm at 183. What you'll notice is my increase, I have Dave, and then one of the items that I did is Mike has never worked more than 500 hours for us. I dropped him down to 600 hours, which gives us a more accurate representation of the work that our department gets from him for it, so we don't have all this extra money left there. I have the clerk Cynthia, I have brought on aspects of Lisa and Paul, which Carrie will touch on, I'll stay here if need be. And then what I have is a half-year part-time code enforcement officer coming in at, part-time is 1,040 hours, half of that, 520, so we'd be looking to bring someone on in June. One of the things that I'm gonna ask the town board to look into is a municipal operating agreement with the Fayetteville Fire Department to take over the fire safety inspections within their district. We can, if you'd like, I've had the conversation with Michael about this. If you'd like to understand the positives of that, him and I can walk you through why that would be a huge impact. What that also allows us to do is have Mike, my goal is to have him focus more on the building aspects of planning and development and less on the fire safety. And it allows Dave to oversee the fire safety inspections, bring up our program, and also without that, you'd be able to do some of our zoning issues that we have. So we'll be able to utilize him for some of the complaints that Mike would go on. So we're taking complaints away from Mike and putting him onto building and pushing some of those zoning aspects onto Dave with the time that he has.
So I had some conversation with Paul Holders about that, and since we have time, I'd like to take a minute and just sort of share with all the councils on what these commercial fire inspections are and how often you have to do them and what their purpose is, because if we were to transition that over to the fire department is happy to do it for their own reasons, but I think we want all the councils to sort of understand what the point of that is.
Okay, so one of the things I think we can all agree on is that a fire department will serve the Fayetteville area here within the town. They are going to be a constant within the town. For the town, we can count on them to ensure compliance for the town for that area moving forward 10 years. I'm looking at like a 20-year plan for myself. I'm not gonna have to worry about the village of Fayetteville's fire safety inspections, and I'll be able to utilize people within my office for things that help us and not have to focus as much on that. Now, there will be oversight, compliance, quarterly meetings, violations that we'll have to send, but it gives us some breathing room with everything that's gonna be coming, because we've continuously been building here in the town and we've been operating in a very similar manner. So this is a look forward for what we can do within the town. Code enforcement officers, building safety inspectors, finding them. Right now, there's no active code enforcement officers on the civil service list. So what we would be looking to do, part of this half-year part-time code enforcement officer training is bring someone in and actually getting them through the training so they could do it. But the fire safety inspections, the main thing is code compliance for New York State. We are required to do our assemblies, our apartments, institutional business mercantiles. One of the things that I think the town, I pride our department with, I think this town should, is that we go above and beyond for some of these places, apartment buildings, daycares, institutional occupancies, so like your Brookdale, your Alzheimer, your nursing homes, where we're ensuring compliance, we're going there when, you know, ice dams happen or, you know, certain events happen where, hey, you gotta look at this, making sure that on fire calls, we're going back and ensuring full compliance. We just had the flooding over at Maple Downs, so making sure that we are staying on top of it so that we can get the people back in, because I had sent Dave over there for that. For some inspections, I had to do some of those, so making sure that those facilities are being scrutinized so that our residents are as safe as possible in them. Any questions with that explanation for why, minus the outside, the New York State
There's
compliant,
gonna be some fee that we pay to Fayetteville to do that, though.
there would be. But that fee right now is, we're actually, the way that I structured our personal services, I've added that with the addition of that fee, we would still be, say, 194 versus 209 with their fee. They were estimating about a $12,000 fee to do those services for us, which would keep us under our last year's personal services.
And I think, in talking to Mike Ridley about it, I think one of the biggest values you're getting is these are firefighters doing fire inspections, and when there's a fire, we call the firemen, not the code enforcement officers. And so they'll have a better understanding of the buildings and the knowledge of it. And I think it'll allow for a lot of good cooperation between our codes and the fire department.
Your point is taken, but we do also call codes. They show up in the middle of the night to help us out.
After the building.
It's usually when we're still hitting hot spots, which is great.
So they're gonna be doing these inspections for the whole town?
Just for their district. The thing with Fayetteville is they have the people with the credentials right now to implement this. I've offered this to the other fire departments. I don't want any fire department to be left out of this conversation. But at this time, I do not feel as though they would have the resources to be able to sign a January 1st operating agreement for us to ensure compliance with the requirements. That is what I feel Fayetteville would be able to accomplish.
So Tom, is that based on a per inspection fee, or is it a flat rate for whatever number is needed within the time frame?
From my understanding, they have given us a rate, and whether we've estimated hours and annual inspection. With me talking too.
No, I'm trying to hear you and I'm very much.
He's kidding because everybody.
Yeah.
To be heard.
So that is a rate, and then whether they do that on standard time for them or overtime, however they organize their operations, we've given them the requirements that they have to meet, and they fulfill that duty. So if they go over that, that's gonna have to be something that they address, and we can look at it within the operating agreement. But here's the thing, I didn't want, when we offered this, my main thing is, I don't want to burden our fire department. I want this to be a resource for them, and I want it to be a resource for us, so I wanted this to be mutual, that we're getting the compliance aspect of it, they're getting in there to do the fire safety inspections. But that would be how they operate, and whether they do them all in 1 month, in 6 months, that budgetary item is for them to figure out how to operate. But the way that we did it with on average, how many inspections pass, the time it takes, and then the reinspection and the documentation, and then what they would have to do for, conversations with us, we factored that in, and we feel as though that would be a fair and reasonable rate for doing what they have to do.
So you had this conversation with Fayetteville only so far?
I've had the conversation with Chief Hansen of the Manlius Fire Department and Chief Gerbelding of Manoa. I have not had this with Chief Leo of the Kirkville Fire Department. I do not think that they are at that position yet. It's going to be something that happened, but again, the 3 villages are the controlled fire, right? So Kirkville's kind of, in my eyes, like this oddity fire department out there, not in one of the villages
that would have that, so I'd be more than willing to have that conversation with them, but for the time, I mean, I could have it this afternoon with them, but yes, I wanna make sure that those fire departments have the opportunity to get into this program, as we'll call it.
So it'd be about $12,000 for each fire department, or was that 12,000?
Well, no, Fayetteville would be the most expensive due to the number of facilities that they have. If you think about it, they're doing all of Wildwood Ridge, they're doing, they have the most number of properties within their district. Kirkville would have, yeah,
But they got a couple industrial.
that's really what they have, but, you know, it'd be, I would assume it'd be Fayetteville, Manlius, Manoa under them marginally, and then Kirkville. But it would be something, I mean, there's still gonna need to be oversight by someone in the department, but the structuring of that, I think, is what we're looking for in the future. In the present right now, it's getting right now Mike into building and out of fire, and by doing that, we do that by having him do that duty at the fire department, and then when he comes here, it's building. I mean, there will be some, we all work mutually together with, if there's an issue on a code review for a property, if there's a fire inspection there, but it would keep him into the building aspect and out of, also if we give Dave the complaints and the zoning, those issues, then I have even more time for Mike here at my staff to be doing building and not having him go out and do complaint inspections. So the goal with that is that I get more time for Mike to do building inspections.
So what I think, this is a creative response to the fact that there is no one who wants to be a code enforcement officer. And so you can't, even if you had all the money in the world, you couldn't hire 3 guys, because there aren't 3 guys out there.
Here's the issue, we can find firefighters to do fire safety inspections and come in as building safety inspectors to the town, do fire safety inspections, that's their bread and butter as a firefighter, they know what they're doing, they have the certifications. It's a problem finding someone with some building background for construction, and Mike has that. I mean, the fact of getting someone with a kind of a dual aspect is beneficial for myself in that department, so if I am looking at fire, I have a local firefighter here to also bounce those things off from, but, you know, instead of bothering the chiefs for little minor things, we can address them in-house. But getting the buildings inspected for code compliance for actual construction is our next goal. But that, having Mike do additions and pools and decks, you know, Dave can go out and do shed inspections. So we're gonna push some of those things onto him, and I call it shed zoning because there's not much to a shed, but Mike can focus on those. I'll be able to focus on larger single family homes and some of the bigger projects that are gonna require oversight. Fayetteville Vet's under construction right now. That's gonna take some, now that they're done with their foundation, this is when it really starts getting, I start getting heavily involved with that building.
I was there yesterday. Already sent Diane, over the cat. So I was excited. They have like a whole rendering of the building up in the lobby. That building, the existing building is falling apart.
Yeah.
So that'll be nice to have.
So Thomas, I mean, essentially, it's just a reallocation of the expertise where it's needed more. But is there any, and it's an efficiency that makes great sense, but is it ultimately gonna like be a little bit of a cost saver for the department too, to offload to the fire districts?
As of right now, I mean, will it be a cost saver eventually?
Maybe.
It's going to equal out. We, the town, are gonna keep growing.
I understand that's not the goal either. The goal is
Yeah,
to put
we
the
are
expertise where
gonna
it's
keep
needed.
growing. I think what we're gonna have to spend more money at the town level. Cause right now in their budget, we included additional projects. They're going to, when Twin Ponds, which is in their district, comes through, ask for more money. When A&E Med Center comes through, and we factored some of those in the addition, you know, like these projects are coming. I think what it's going to do is if we start looking at this, we'll start, as you said, allocating the right people to the right tasks. It's in the scheme of it, we were paying Mike to do some of those and Dave to do those. where now we'll be paying the Fayetteville Fire Department to do
And the
that.
Fayetteville Fire Department's gonna pay pretty much the same
Mike,
people.
Well,
Like, we're
Mike
paying
and three
them
other
for
people to do that.
So it's just an allocation of his time where you need it more
Yes,
importantly.
I mean, and just to add a little bit from talking with Tom and then a little bit from experience of like a couple of things I heard. So really, right off the bat, if you're thinking, is there a savings off the bat? I think he's demonstrated it's about $13,000 for a part-time person at 520 hours or whatever. And you're gonna get the opportunity to tap into as many people as Fayetteville has certified that can go out over multiple shifts, multiple days a week and provide these services at what it costs Tom for one 520 hour employee. So that's a huge benefit, I think, to start with. The other benefit, and Tom did mention this, is they're now really getting into more buildings that they can be called to respond to. And they're not just doing those fire safety inspections, but they're gonna pre-plan simultaneously so that they can upload information, like Terry did at 911, put it in there and say, hey, there's special hazards here located. That's another benefit of this. Alyssa, you asked about the other departments, and Tom did say he reached out to the other departments, but each department has like a very different makeup, and some don't have the capacity or resources to do codes, or they never have done codes. Like I was a member of Manoa, we've never done codes there. We never talked about getting into codes, predominantly volunteer. A codes classes for BSI was 2 weeks. I don't know if it's more than that, but it's 10 consecutive day courses broken up over 2 weeks. And then they have to maintain that with whatever the hours now, I can only imagine are more than what they were when I was a BSI. Actually was a CCT and then made a BSI.
What are these acronyms?
These are the people who work under him. That's the easiest way to know. CEO, and then there's building safety inspector, which used to be codes compliance technician. But those are the people in the field, and those are the certifications that most of the firefighters in the town, if they're certified, hold to do these fire safety inspections. So I think it's kind of like a starting point where the history with Fayetteville is that they've maintained these since the early 2000s. And they really like to be involved in codes because of that added benefit of them being able to pre-plan buildings and whatnot, which turns out to be very beneficial for everybody, especially the public, so they can more efficiently respond and safely respond to emergencies. They've just never stopped doing it. So if you look at it as a test pilot for intermunicipal cooperation and better services to the community, this is, I think Fayetteville's like the place to start with something like that because they're already set up to do it. They're already doing it. Come on into the town, which we already contract you to protect fire and EMS wise, and do it with us and for us. There was one other thing that you told me that I thought stood out. And then the plan is to get away from any of this, like, filling everything out on the paperwork and then throwing it over to Tom's office, and now it's taking up a clerical to go through and input everything and make sure they can read what was written. And there's gonna be an effort to standardize to an application, computer or a tablet, whereas they're doing this in real time, when that report's finished, it's here in the town. Sent, as soon as they have connectivity to something. So it's, I think it was a very well thought out plan, and I'm full support of it. If anybody needs help to understand any part of it, sit with you and Tom, help explain it, but it's great.
yeah, I've outlined some of the job duties, the reallocation of it for everybody, if you'd like to see that. How we're gonna kind of structure what we're doing within the department of who's gonna be taking over, I've been saying Dave's gonna be doing things, Mike's gonna be taking on different duties. I mean, he's had them the whole time, but I'm just looking to fill them in more for him. And I think long-term with it, the benefit will be seen by the town for the amount of time that we would be paying someone here it will either be paying someone here to do it or paying someone at the Fayetteville Fire
Yeah, I
Department
love
to
it.
do
I
it.
mean, it's just your instinct to think growth and planning for the future is why we love you.
It's been hard because I've been looking at getting other code enforcement officers. And I was talking with a gentleman at a conference and it was like, hey, come on over, and it's,
So Tom, can you talk more about that, about like the training element?
well, that's the thing, as soon as you get your training, most code officers are either trained by a municipality, take the civil service test, and then get, the letter sent out from every municipality that's looking for one when the new test comes out, and it says, and most of them are willing to travel. So it's very hard to get someone, so what I'd be looking for is, the part-timer, the local part-timer, someone here within the town that we would be able to train, that would have the incentive to stay here, because they're not incentivized to go out and go look in, Cicero or Camillus or some of these other places within the county that would be sending those letters for them when they take that. It's been hard. I've spoken with a couple. I know that a couple code officers are retiring. The town of Onondaga just had their code officer leave and retire.
Yeah, I was at a session today with the city of Oneida Codes Department, and they're older gentlemen,
Yeah, and
Not gonna be around much longer.
No, and they have the best intentions for their, I'm here, I'm planning on being here. It's trying to, what we can do to look forward for the future, and I think this is a great opportunity for us here.
Did you talk to our attorney about if we were to put them through training, they'd have to stay here for a certain amount of time? Can't do
There is
it?
no.
So you
The
can do
only
that
thing-
on the private
Yeah,
side, so
the
I don't know.
only thing we can do is incentivize them, and one of the incentives that we have here is the flexibility.
Yeah.
When you're coming here, we have, and that's one of those things we expect, as long as there's open lines of communication, like I know Mike's coming in on Wednesday, or I know he's doing this, so I can pre-plan for him and give him a workload. And that flexibility, I feel like, is what the people want, as long as we are producing the code compliance aspect and making sure everything is completed here in the town. I think that's what you guys care about, and that's what I care about, because I have to sign my name on the compliance letter from New York State at the end of the year. So as long as we get the job done, we have the right people doing it, that is my goal. So
And
we
are
have,
there training, so are there classes that a person who's interested in getting into codes enforcement can take? Are they offered very often, or is it like once a year and?
no, they are, you can do them. The thing is that if you were to do them, you are paying for them yourself, whereas I have, one of the things you'll see is $1,000 in 402, you'll see additional training in IPS. That is those additional code classes that we have money in our in our budget to offer.
Questions on the?
Sorry.
What was that?
Is that,
Why don't you
Yeah.
kick us off into equipment now?
Well, that I'm hoping goes away, because you'll see 0 there. I'm hoping we've got the EV vehicles. On the next page, you'll say permanent no EV vehicles, 75K. If not spent, we move to 2025. Hopeful, we have some vehicles lined up, just gonna work through that. The contractual items here, 400. I was gonna defer to Sarah on those right now, but I don't know how much more we need, or if there's any other of these studies or items that we want to put under there for this.
Where did you put the GIS?
The GIS, I did not have.
Okay, there's $2,000 for GIS, everybody's gonna share, $2,000 for each highway assessment and codes for the GIS, subscription, not the development. but
That's part of the 5 you're saying?
That, I think that's not in here.
No, that is
And
not.
I think
Oh, so
I
you
should
gotta
put
add
that either. We gotta put it in caps too.
Oh.
But it's $6,000 a year, we're just gonna divide it amongst the 3 departments.
Okay, so I'll add that into there.
But I think I see your point, and, I wish I had the crystal ball to tell you what else was gonna come up.
Yeah, I mean, I could put, but I know we had some of these, the canal trail,
Mhm.
ward system study group. If we wanna move them
Mhm.
over, or if any other ones happen.
I think it's cool to leave them there, that I think it's better to have something there and then not need it, than to, have to scrounge up something after the fact.
I am going to jump down to 405. And this one is MapLink admin, that went up ever so slightly. I had a conversation with John, we were at a very low, we were at an introductory rate. That IPS reconfiguration, this is tablets and IPS for the fire department. This is the mobile app maintenance is a standard. They couldn't give me an exact percentage increase, so I went with 7,500. And then one of the items here is document scanning, $15,000 cap. But what that allows us to do, I think we voiced it enough, how crucial documents being digitized are and how much time it saves us and how much better we can serve the residents when we have those documents scanned digitally. What that does, it will open space up also in our office. So if you go back up to office supplies, this is I just put a number there for office creation for Tom. I know we're working on the building and everything about it, but once all those file cabinets go, creating a space in which I can have meetings with people, or even just have meetings with my own staff that are not out in the open of that. So something that I would like to see, I think would be the new hire. And then our association and dues have stayed the same. Next year for books and publications, we will have the $1,000. We will have the code upgrade in 2025. If you look at on the next page, it says books and publication, New York State code books every 3 to 5 years, $1,000 next year, expected 2025. I put that in there last year. So last year that was at 0. So you'll see the $1,000 increase. I spoke about information technology with document scanning.
I will say too, as the GIS system gets stood up, it's very likely that we won't need the MapLink map anymore. Because it's a very smaller implementation of what GIS can do, so for 1 year, we'll have both probably, and if everything goes well, it'll just replace it in the following year.
Wait, the $15,000 for the document scanning, is that to pay an outside company to do it, or?
I got that as part of my presentation, because it's something we're doing together.
So it's not a total of $15,000?
No, it's not a total. Like I said, once I get to mine, I've got more information on it and I'll go through it.
Is the National Archive involved by any chance?
Yes, yes.
Just want to make sure, because
No.
it would be like $75,000 to do this.
Yeah, no. Once we get to mine, it'll make more sense.
We put mailing in there. I sent out a lot of certified letters. I've been keeping track this year. I say we send out a lot. We're under 20 at this point, but that's, $8 a letter. So it's one of those things. I don't know if we want to keep this or not, but it's something that we've done. I reduced the general engineering, from where it was. I've realized what we do and do not need from our engineer, and what we'll be looking for and essentially the scope of the projects that we have and what can actually go to trust and agency for some of the projects that we've been utilizing. So that which was being done is now going back to trust and agency. Comprehensive plan monitoring, climate action plan monitoring. I have the hopeful EV charging. I have it as a average cost per mile to charge of 5 cents. And I have traveled 2,000 miles from January to September this year. So that gives us definitely some flexibility within that. Travel expense reimbursement, I know that was talked about 2 years ago. We've never really used it. But if someone's doing it, it's there for it. I only put $250. It's a lot of reimbursement. I mean, we're not doing per diems for days to go get lunches. The only thing would be gas that we would have, so if that number wants to go fluctuate for just gas, it could, I put it at 250 though. Phones, tablets, all set there. I spoke with Kay about that, and then everything else has been the same. Uniforms for, OSHA gear, and then any damaged gear from the job sites, and then community relations has been the same. And then I'm gonna do zoning board. Zoning board, no changes. The only thing I was asked was by the planning board to increase their seminars and conferences. So that went up to $2,000, and that I think they would be able to explain the benefits of them getting additional training to better them within their endeavors.
And there are trainings available for them.
Yes, and they have wanted to go to additional trainings and how they work through that, but there has been trainings after the county training that they have.
Looks like we just got one that I sent out.
Yeah, I think you're going to.
It's like a
Yeah,
half day
I
over
know.
the country, yeah. I hope they're gonna go.
Right up exactly the value.
Exactly.
The one in September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you don't.
I know, they should all know.
I have enough copies, so I know.
And then there's one that's.
I should be able to remember $2,000 to add on. It was myself.
Oh, yeah. So anything else you guys know?
That is it for me. As long as I have no further questions, I'm more than willing to talk with anybody after this though about the future of it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna,
It's very good.
Thanks, Tom.
no problem. You want, if you got this fully covered for yourself or,
I'm gonna bring my computer up there with me, so
okay.
I should be there. Thank you, though.
So.
Yeah, just in case.
Those things. So you'll be on the Zoom, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we do it that way?
Well, I'm not giving you a handout, though.
This plus one.
Got to.
That's you, isn't it?
Just that's.
No, those notes are mine.
Carry on, I'm gonna turn
No.
It's pretty straightforward, there's not much, you know what we're trying to do, scanning.
I've got a dog to send your way, so we've got another $30.
Woo-hoo. Let me add that to my revenue. Just kidding.
Plus one done.
We'll add that in there. Right. I need just 1 second while I get the sharing here. So I'm still learning Encode and I haven't quite got it in all the way yet. So I figured it's much easier for me to show you guys on a spreadsheet than anything else.
We are happy with spreadsheet.
And it's much easier for me to read it, so. So the first thing I have is just, the town clerk account, which is my biggest account. You'll see, I've got the 2024 amounts that were budgeted and then the 2025 amounts. For mine, I did not realize the RMO, the Records Management Officer, was not included, or was not separate, that it was included in the overall town clerk's, salary. So
Separate at one time.
it was, but last year, from 2024, they moved it into,
Okay.
the annual salary for Allison. So that's why I'm kind of looking for a little bit more than that, formula that John gave. You'll see Lisa, I am looking for a little bit more for Lisa than that salary or that formula. And the reason being is because she is kind of pulling the weight of 2 offices. Not only is she helping me on the town clerk side, but she's going to still be helping Tom on the planning and development side. It's just kind of how the office is working. And with her knowledge, it's only gonna benefit whoever the clerk is and whoever his code enforcement officers may be. So with that being said, 20% of hers, we're asking that comes out of the B fund. So I'm only asking for the 43 for her, he's gonna put in for the other 20%. You'll see we kind of did the same thing with Paul, my new clerk, he's doing great. He's catching on so fast, that we've decided we wanna start training him in the planning and development as a backup. So if Tom's clerk Cynthia wants to take a vacation, we can use we can use Paul to help Tom so that when Cynthia comes back, she's not coming back to a pile, knee-high of stuff. Tina, I can't say anything bad about Tina. She has stepped up and she has helped out. Even when we were short-staffed, she had picked up a lot, and continues to pick up a lot. So I am asking for just a little bit more than the formula. So I did go up a little bit in the personal, services aspect.
Tina had 47,966 last year. For the organization.
Yes, but part of her budget
Was
came out of the B fund last year. So that's why it's only showing the 38,366 is what came out of the town clerk
So on
fund.
the salaries
You
form.
didn't have your note there.
I did not have my note and I apologize. So I'm going to keep all of Tina this year, have her salary come out of my budget because she's primarily going to be doing just clerk duties.
And now Paul is the one who's gonna be partly to.
Yes, yes. Any questions on that? Any other ones? Sorry about the confusion on that, Alyssa. That was my fault.
Karen,
Yeah.
just a question. So Tom spoke about utilizing the fire department and that freeing up some time. Would that help freeing up any of Lisa's time, or based on demand for P and D, it makes more sense for Lisa to be floating back and forth? I'm just trying to understand what's.
So I think Lisa's gonna always be kind of floating back and forth
Okay.
because she has that, 16 years worth of knowledge of P and D, that she's gonna be one that people are gonna go to when they, have questions. If Tom were trying to do policy procedure kind of things, she'll be one to sit in and help Tom make sure that we have things written out. So I think she's not gonna be over there all the time. At least my hopes is she's not, because I could really use her. But I do think she's gonna be spending still some time over there, especially getting the new clerks up to speed as to what she did for Tom.
I still utilize Lisa on a daily basis as her being the planning board secretary in office when I have questions about the really detailed aspects of the planning board project and where they stand moving applicants forward. When they're not at the planning board meeting, we're utilizing her for those also at the planning and development department.
Of course. So office supplies, no change there, gonna keep it the same. We may even have, I don't even know what we have right now, but I can't foresee us needing anything more than what's there. So conferences and seminars, did go up quite a bit. And the reason being is having the new employees. I'd like to get them the training. I'd like to see Lisa being, as my first deputy, I'd like to see getting her to go to some of these conferences with me. So God forbid something happens to me, she can jump right in. Or God forbid I decide to leave like Allison did and she'll be all set, ready to go. Just kidding, Allison.
We're not doing that.
I'm not going anywhere, I promise. But that's why I am requesting a higher, budget for the training. I'd like to try and get, Paul some training. He does not live in the town, so we can't use him for that, but it'd still be nice for him to have that knowledge. And then town clerks and associations, my dues, went up $10. That was just from the IAMC. The Canva, I don't know if it's gonna go up, but I just put it up to 130. I gave it a 5% increase because it typically seems to be what the increase is for these softwares. That software, which is our clerk program, that's how we take in all the money and keep track of everything. That is going up. I verified with them, it was gonna go up to the 2835. So just a little bit more there. Public notices, I did go up $500 on that. Just knowing some of the projects that we've got coming down the line where we probably are gonna have more public hearings, I wanted to make sure we were covered on that. Filing fees, historically, it's been $100. So I did not touch that. I'm gonna leave that rate at $100. All right, so records management, this is where we're gonna get into, the scanning and all that good stuff. So I would say probably about 3 months ago, Lisa and I had a gentleman from Avalon come in and give us a breakdown of scanning all of the documents downstairs. That's including all of the maps, all of those boxes, getting them scanned so we can get them into Laserfiche, kind of like that big project she did this year. We had them break it down into 4 phases. For us, it was this phase 1 was the most important. Let's get all the big maps gone. Let's get all of those building permits from 1920 scanned, those fragile documents that, you know, you're afraid they're gonna disintegrate. When they gave it to us for all 4 phases, it was just about $100,000. So with that said, Lisa and I took a step back knowing that was a lot to ask. And we figured if we can get the phase 1, which is all of the big maps and all of those really old files scanned from Avalon. And he quoted us $22,000 to $33,000 for that. And the reason it was such a big range is because you can't really tell how many maps are in a circle or in a roll. So we figured if we could do that, my department pay for half of it, we'll have Tom's department pay for the other half, considering it's planning and development, and some of it is clerk documents. And then up on the top, you'll see we're looking for scanners at $6,000. We're looking for 2 tabletop scanners or desktop scanners, which there is one in your packet. These scanners will be able to do letter, legal, and ledger size. So once we use that $30,000 to get the scanning done for phase 1, we will be able to do the rest of the scanning in-house with these 2 scanners. The reason we want 2 is because Lisa loves her scanning and she's gonna take the lead on it. She's gonna put one at her desk, and then we're gonna continue to have one at the scanning desk that we have in the clerk's office. So when Paul's not working with Tom or doesn't have clerk duties, he's gonna start scanning things as well, and we're gonna put it all right into Laserfiche. And then the small scanner that we have right now that doesn't scan the ledger size, we're gonna give to Tina, and she's gonna start scanning like our handicap pass tags, our marriage license, things like that. We did talk to Archive, and they said as long as it meets the quality, the scanning quality, you don't have to keep the hard copy. So on most things, there are some things we have to keep the hard copy for as well, but with the way the basement is, the leaks in the building, that kind of thing, I get very scared that things are gonna get damaged and we're not gonna have them. So I'd rather scan them, and even if we have to hold on to them forever, something happens to this building or a new building or whatever, we still have them electronically,
So
if we have to access them.
So is the point of Avalon is to scan these old maps?
The really big, huge maps?
The construction drawings and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
But then for these scanners, is that for keeping, like, as you doing work currently, making sure everything stays
No, that's
scanned?
so when Avalon put 100,000, it was for every document to get up to everything's digitized, so they chunked off just the stuff that we couldn't practically do. And then the idea is rather than pay Avalon another 70,000, is that we will have these high capacity scanners in-house at that level, that we can scan them and go through that
So these are
backlog.
boxes in the basement?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
So I have a wonderful idea. It seems to me that the clerks are plenty busy enough at the front desk and wouldn't have time to just sit at a scanner all day.
We have our downtime, and during that downtime, we can be working on that project. So there are times where we don't have anybody that comes in. I mean, it is what it is. It's raining out, people don't come in. We can be sitting there and we can start the scanning. So it's not gonna be a quick project. It's gonna be a project that's gonna happen over a couple of years, but it's also gonna save the town money, you know, that $70,000.
Well, it's also gonna facilitate utilization because finding something in the cardboard box is not easy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And Lisa and I kind of have a game plan as to, you know, we're gonna pull the boxes up, go through them and get them organized. And then, you know, that way it'll make it easier for Paul to scan or for Tina to scan. And then that'll also help eliminate some of those filing cabinets that we have in the office as well. Kind of declutter a little bit, go digital as much as possible.
Thanks for explaining that. I withheld my question from Tom, because I knew you were gonna say, but the Avalon portion or that funded portion, your budget was prioritized, the large, the fragile, and the old.
Yeah, so if you look, I also put phase one quote in the back, from Avalon. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's there along with this, the scanner that we're looking at, and that's the scanner that came, recommended by, Garum. We reached out to Garum and said, hey, this is what we're looking to do, what's the best scanner to work with Laserfish?
Did
And,
you, I'm sorry,
no, go ahead.
did you talk to Assessment, who has a whole room of cabinets as well?
That would eventually be, once we get the downstairs in our office, because as the RMO, yeah, I'm townwide. So once we get control downstairs and control in our office, then we'll move and go into the other
And then
offices.
to, talking to my new assistant, one of the things he's gonna be tackling while he's kind of getting on board is the filing cabinets in my office as well. So like, this scanner will live there, and, I would say, take fill the box up, go scan it, and come back. So,
Because if the scanner, once Lisa's not there, the scanner table,
Yeah,
anybody could use.
yeah, oh, absolutely, well, there will
But
be
they have
one.
to be trained how to do it.
Yes, and that's fine. The only issue we would have is if we wanted to put it on somebody, Laserfish on another computer, we would have to get another license.
Right.
And I believe those are like $1,200 for a license. Right now, in our office, we have enough license to do the scanner table, Lisa's computer, and then we can take, Debbie has retired, we can take her license and put it on Tina's, so Tina can work on scanning, those smaller documents for us.
30,000 sheets per day.
Yeah, yeah, look, I know, right? But that one there, Laserfish will also back that scanner and says it works very well with their program.
Right.
So
And
just
then
a
we got
reminder, too, Laserfish is no one ever sees it, none of us ever see it, but it is very, very important. It does basically everything to do with planning and development gets scanned in there so that it's there, but the biggest thing and the reason why they have a recommended scanner is because it does optical character recognition. So you scan in a document and then it saves a picture of the document and a Word file with the text or PDF.
So you can search these archives
Yeah, and then-
without your eyes. You can
Yeah,
text
and so the reason these scanners are pricey is because not only can they get that quality and is the hardware optimized for it, but it also does it at speed. So if we tried to do this with like a regular desktop scanner, it's gonna take forever because of the quality.
So what I read about New York State Archives is that they have a grant that can give you up to like $75,000 to do this type of stuff for us.
Yes, I had spoken to I forget his name, Lisa and I had talked to him and did a Zoom meeting with him. And he says getting that grant is very, very difficult to get. He said he would help us try and apply for it, but he said that grant is a very difficult grant to get. So, I mean, we will absolutely try, but I wanna try and do it even if we can't get that.
I know, absolutely, but I
Yeah.
still think we should try and $75,000, you can do two phases.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I've got it, Lisa's got it, or I'm sorry, I have it on our calendar to reach back out to him to work on the application part. He can't walk us through the entire thing, but he can kind of get us to where we need to be with it, to submit it. So we do have that on our radar for that. Any other questions with records management?
This is so much fun.
This FOIA stuff is for the foils, right?
Yes, that is for the foils.
Is that working? Is Debbie was sort of the person for that? How is it going?
Well, today was day one.
Okay.
Lisa and I do have a meeting set up with our representative next week, and he's gonna put us through like a quick 1-hour course to kind of get us the gist of the program. But I've been in there, it's not too bad.
Generally speaking, it's done
really-
exactly what it was
Yeah.
supposed to do. And it's been helpful. I mean, like, it's nice to get the email reminder to say, hey, as opposed to, Debbie having to run everybody in the building down, like, where's the phone?
Right.
So it has done a very good job. And my understanding is police do like this one.
And I'm hoping, I talked to Snyder earlier, not today, but a couple months ago, and I'm hoping that we can get PD just to take over theirs to where I don't even have to go in and assign it.
Yeah.
We'll still have access to it, just because of, you know, legal purposes, but I'm hoping we can just hand it over to them and they do their thing. They assign it to who needs to be, they send it when it's complete versus me sending it to them sending it back, that kind of thing, just kind of cut the middleman out, so that's kind of my goal for that. So then Laserfiche is in here, they did, so that's backwards, so it should be, 1,100 for this year, not the 1078, I'm sorry, they did go up a little bit. I had that in the wrong one. And then the social media archive, you guys all saw that I sent out.
Yeah.
They are willing to work with us to get it implemented before January. Whether it be we add it onto the 2025 budget and pay for it then, and give us some kind of prorated discount. If you guys are interested, I'd be more than happy. I've got a meeting with him next week, to get the numbers as to what they can do for us if we wanted to implement it sooner than January 1.
I think it's a bad idea. I mean,
I don't
it's,
see any reason to wait
yeah,
for January for that.
We're not gonna bill us until next year.
Yeah, if they're ready and they can schedule whatever they need to do it on the same year.
where's your,
So I would say we'll have to look at where we would take it out of in the current budget, but I don't know that we even need to put it in 25 if we're.
yeah, if we can work something out.
Okay.
They're 3 months prior onboarding and everything.
Okay, yeah, I will double check with him. I'll send him an email, either today or tomorrow and just tell him, hey, look, what are we looking at? And like I said, I have a meeting with him next week.
And I'm sure this isn't gonna come as a surprise to them, but just have them, you know, we'll have a contract that we adopt in January at the organizational meeting, so they'll, whatever, we just need like an addendum to that for the rest of the time until there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so maybe we could see if they would give you like a 3-month contract and then another contract for
For the 12 months,
We'll
yeah.
definitely, we'll get it.
something like that we could plan for.
I'm sure they can.
Kay, your message was helpful too, thank you.
And then the next one is, sorry, everything's all over the place. Dog.
Now, Allison always wanted to do some kind of a mailing because it was the right year to do something about dog licenses. And she mentioned
She put it into something else, some other, didn't you say?
well, it was gonna be the newsletter that never happened.
I think it was generally itemized under something else.
So that might explain the supplies, the first item there for 300. That said something about mailings, but over the past couple of years, there has not been a single
Yeah, we haven't done
transaction out of that, so I
That
took
was,
it out.
that's what it was. She used to do, she contemplated doing a mailing, notifying people that there were dog licenses in the town mailings.
Oh,
I
okay.
know the expired ones and everything.
But I don't know that that's the most effective tool, so I think we would look for you to have a plan for increasing the participation in dog licenses.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be the plan of postcards, there could be lots of other ways of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I took that 300 out, because like I said, over the past 3 years, there has not been any transactions on that. And then office supplies, that includes, you know, our envelopes that we do mail out, the renewal notices. It includes, the dog tags, yes. So, and then there's a little buffer there that could potentially cover something, you know, if we figure out something we wanted to send out. Our dog control contract is up after 2025, so I will have to work with them to try and negotiate another 3-year contract for dog control and cruelty.
It's gonna be a sizable increase, we just need to prepare for that.
Okay.
I mean, I know the last time that Allison worked with them, we didn't like grandfathered into a price, but they made it very clear that the next time it was not gonna be this way. So, and like, as much as double, because again, like, I think they're doing it for I don't know any other municipality that has its own dog control office.
The SBCA is doing for everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Then they should have a town music system.
Any questions on that one? All right, then the veteran services, that goes towards, you know, the, upkeep for the cemeteries. It goes to the VFWs and, American Legions within the town. Historian contract, spend 4,000 right along. I still get stuff, so I'm hoping, once things kind of slow down a little bit, that I can maybe even add a historian page to the town clerks and start putting some of this information that Barbara sends to us up on the website. And then the museum contract, that's been 8,000 for the past couple of years. Not quite sure. I know, it's awful, I say I'm not quite sure.
And the museum, does provide stuff for our, display.
And then here's my, expenditures. So you'll see, I just broke it down based off of each account and what's been the total that we've spent, through August. And then just my account breakdown, if you look at it, it'll show you what was requested in 2024 and then what I'm requesting in 25. So we're about 30,000. It might be opposite pages. Next page maybe. So looking at 30,000, a little bit more, than what we did last year. Revenue,
But the 30,000 includes
the
like a
scanning,
half a person more.
right.
So that's not huge.
And then the revenue as of August 31st, you'll see for clerk fees, I upped that a little bit. I think we're gonna surpass that 4,200 this year if we stay on track with what we've done thus far. Dog license, I did down that. We're not gonna come close to that 21,000 this year. So I did drop that, down to 18,000 for next year. Minor sales, spend 0. I don't know what the 104 was that we got, but it's there. And then games a chance. It's been 200 historically, so I'm just gonna leave it at 200 because we just never know what we're gonna get off of that.
Thank you. Great question.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
We do,
You're welcome.
we do schedule these for any other businesses necessary, I think. Anything else before we, close this down for about an hour, like the board meeting is considered? Good? Good? Okay.
Do you need a motion or we just go out?
No,
All set, close?